Hey, what's going on, friends? Bad Guy Cam here with our NPBA Season 4 season review. We did one of these last season for the NPBA. I thought it was a lot of fun, so these are going to be a mainstay on the channel, so I hope you enjoy them as well. What we're going to be doing today, we'll be doing a quick review of how the season went. We'll talk a little bit about how we did as a team, and then we are going to talk about the Pokemon that we used individually. This time around, we're going to be giving them a grade. We're going to also be going over just generally how they did. We'll try to spend about a minute or so on each Pokemon, and then at the end we will go over the awards for the season. This season we have 4. I made it a little more streamlined, so it makes a little bit more sense, but if you wait till the end of the video, you'll see exactly what went on. So let's go ahead and start talking about Season 4. Season 4 was not our best season. We ended the exact same record as we did Season 3 with a 4-5 record. This year we had a -5 differential, which put us in 10th place. That was actually one place out of playoffs because of there was one coach who was not going to be able to make playoffs who was in the top 8, so they bumped playoffs to be the first 9 minus that one person. So we just barely missed out by 1 win. Looking back on the season, there were definitely a couple matches where we could have pulled that out had we prepped a little bit better or played a little bit better. And it or you know, there was some luck involved in some of those, but we're not going to get too much into that. But overall, not much progress from last season, and I'm very happy, but not happy with where we ended up. I feel better about this season than I did last season. We started off very slow, but we picked it up again towards the end of the season, and I am very happy with the Pokemon that we chose, and we can start talking about those. This season, I'm gonna go in draft order. We did make some changes partway through the season. I actually believe, I can't remember, but it was after week 1 or week 2. We made these changes pretty early on. So I'm just going to be going over the Mons that I did, that we had on the team at the end of the season. And what we're going to be doing is doing a quick review of how they did, and then we'll be giving them a grade, and then I'll give an explanation for the grade. Let's kick things off, shall we? So our first overall pick this season was Mew. Blueberry, very, very interesting mon to use. Mew has so much versatility. It can be defensive, it can be offensive. We brought both. In the end, we did bring Mew. I lost my notes. 2 seconds. There we go. We brought Mew 7 times. Mew had 7 kills and 6 deaths. And 4 of those kills were on the last day of the season. Overall, I'm going to give Mew a B+ as a grade. Mew did a good job. It was always available. It was a mon that I could have brought every week, and it was the mon that we brought second most times on the entire team. Because of that, I'm going to give Mew a B+. It was okay. Like, I would say that it was one of the better performing mons on our team. It did a lot of things that it needed to do, and I really can't say too much because I didn't think it was like too great, but it also it didn't like hinder the team at all. For 18 points, I think it was a little bit of a hefty pickup. I don't think it did as much as I would have liked to have done, which is why I'm not giving it, a high grade like an A, but I also don't think it was like an awful super, I could go a little bit lower. I could go for like a B, but I'm going to give it a B+ because I'm feeling a little bit nicer today. So that's our Mew. Moving on, we're going to talk about Muay Thai, the Como-O, who came 6 times, got 8 kills, had 4 deaths. And I'm going to give Como-O an A this time around. And Como-O did most everything that I wanted it to do, right? It could have got a few more kills, but there were a couple times where we rushed it too much, and it wasn't on any fault of the Pokemon itself. It was just some bad decision making on our part. However, with the times that we did bring it, we brought some really interesting sets. We brought it physically, we brought it specially, we brought it defensively, and it really put in a lot of work. I was extremely happy with how Como-O performed. I think the team itself, I tried to build the team around Como-O, and there were a couple things missing. I think that there could have been a little bit better support to help it set up a little bit more. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but just overall, I feel like Como-O did really well. It was one of the standout Pokemon on the team this season. As you can see, it had 8 kills, which was second most on the team, and at 4 deaths with being brought 6 times was a very solid return for Komo-o, and I think that we were totally justified in picking up Komo-o, and overall had a very, very good season. So congratulations to Komo-o. Next up, we're going to be talking about Thundurus Therian Thunderclap. This was one of the additions that we brought on partway through the season. We were looking for a little bit more of a punch, give us a little bit more of an offensive threat. We brought Thundurus T 6 times, had 2 kills, 4 deaths, so I'm going to give Thundurus a B. Thundurus Therian is a very scary mon. The only thing that I really had a problem with was that it's very similar in what it does. Like, I felt like I was running it with a choice scarf set every single week because that's what it fit into. I could have tried running some different things, but you either like have to run agility, and that's a pretty decent move as well, but how are you going to get set up? You can run nasty plot, same thing. It gets some good coverage moves. Overall, I feel like it was more threatening on paper than it actually ended up being, but it was still a huge threat, and it did a lot of really good things when it came to like pivoting and supporting the team and doing some big damage. It may not have got many kills this season, but I do think that Thundurus, if there was like an assist tally, Thundurus would probably have quite a few assists based on how much damage it was doing. So that's why I've decided to give Thunderclap a B. Next up, we're going to talk about our Mega Aggron Hephaestus. Brought 6 times, 0 kills, 6 deaths. I'm giving Mega Aggron a B-. Unfortunately, I am a huge fan of Mega Aggron. For whatever reason this season, it just was not holding up. It did a good job as a tank. We tried to run a couple different sets. We ran some curse sets. We ran some different coverage sets. We ran some support sets with like taunt and roar and things like that. But it never really quite played out, and it never really hit its stride. I feel like when you have a Mega Aggron on your team, people are always going to be trying to bring something that can handle it, whether it's a fighting type or a fire type that can hit it on the special side, or just things that can really, hit it neutrally, especially from that special side. I feel like it gets kind of pigeonholed a little too much into bringing like a specially defensive set. Its regular defense is just massive, and so you don't really ever have to worry about it. I would have liked to have brought it a bit more offensively, but I feel like it is what it is, and unfortunately, no kills for Mega Aggron this season. Out of all of our mons, it was only out of all the mons we brought, it was one of 2 that did not get a kill, so that was pretty disappointing. And overall, I do still love Mega Aggron, but it really, we're going to stick with a B- for this season. Next up, we have Sylveon Iris, who was brought 9 times, had 3 kills and 8 deaths. But I'm going to give Sylveon an A-. Very different side of the equation from what we were talking about with Mega Aggron. I feel like we brought Mega Aggron mostly to be a physical wall, and we brought Sylveon to be a special wall. And I feel like Sylveon did an excellent job this season at being that special wall. There were numerous times where I did not have Sylveon on the team, but ended up putting it on the team because it was such a good wall and it could help out so much. In that same vein as Thundurus, I feel like if we were counting like assists from like support and from like a clerical side, Sylveon would absolutely hands down be winning that. I think Sylveon had a really good season. We had some fun with it. Most times it was brought defensively, but we did bring a couple offensive sets, and that really threw my opponents off. It was the only Pokemon that came to every single match, and I think that speaks very highly of what Sylveon was able to bring to this team. Fairy types in general are very good, but Sylveon with its pixelate ability, being able to hit super hard with Hyper Voice, being very bulky on the special side, and then being able to reinvest on that defensive side, there really wasn't too many things that we came up against that was going to handle that Sylveon super well defensively. And then you throw on like Wish and Protect and Toxic and Heal Bell and all these other things that Sylveon does, and Sylveon had a very good season despite pretty much dying every time it came. It did everything it needed to do. In other words, it was kind of like that sacrificial lamb that Mega Venusaur was for us last season, but I feel like Sylveon actually did a lot more and was a very, very good mon for the team. Next up, we have another new mon that was brought on partway through the season. Obstagoon Styx was brought 4 times, 2 kills, 4 deaths. I'm going to give Obstagoon a B. The idea behind Obstagoon, we talked about this in the trade video, was that it's a little more of a threat than what did we trade? No, it wasn't more of a threat than Zarude, but it gave us more variety in what we could do. Like we could run a Guts with Flame Orb. We could run a Scarf. We ran it with a Choppleberry in 1 week, and that threw my opponent off super hard. But overall, I think that Obstagoon did what it was meant to do, and that was to pivot around, and it was to hit things hard, right? So when we're thinking back to like, oh, we want to get things in for Como, Obstagoon was a really great choice because of that parting shot move where we could potentially get in Como into something to set up where it's not going to take damage or it's going to force a switch that we can then play around at that point. Overall, I'm going to give it a B. I don't think it did like great this season. I don't think it was spectacular, but I also don't think, I think it was it did what it was supposed to do in a good way. And that's kind of how like I'm looking at these grades, right? Like they're kind of arbitrary. Like, you know, like I said, I'm feeling kind of nice today. If I was coming off of a loss at the end of the season, these might be a little bit lower, but I'm giving Obstagoon a B, just because like I do think that it did what it was supposed to do in a good way. Like if I don't know. That's just my reasoning behind it. We don't have to talk too much more about Obstagoon. It really didn't do a whole lot this season. So let's go ahead and move on to Moltres, Colonel Sanders. We brought Moltres 6 times. It got 3 kills, had 5 deaths. I'm also going to give Moltres a B. I'm not going to lie. I was very excited to draft Moltres at the beginning of the season, and by the end, I was just kind of like meh on Moltres. It was a defogger. It did some damage. That's pretty much it, though. I felt like I was very restricted with its movesets each week. It was either I was always giving up something. Like I either had to give up pivoting with U-turn, I had to give up longevity with Roost. I was always bringing defog, and then it was at that point, what else do I bring? I bring Flamethrower or Hurricane or both. Maybe a Will-O-Wisp. I don't think I brought Will-O-Wisp at all, though. But overall, I think Moltres was, again, it did what it was supposed to do. A little bit more on the positive side. It was just, it wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. And I don't know that, I had never used a Moltres before this season, and I'm not sure that I would again, just because of, it felt very difficult to use. The Flame Body never really worked out in our favor. That was one of the things I was the most excited about, and it never procced at the right times. And when it did proc, like I remember there was we were in the match against the Mega Beedrill, and I was super pumped because I finally I got the Flame Body Bird, and then it ran Facade, and just and that's one thing, you know, like it just never quite lived up to what it could have been, but for what it did it just fine. Next up, we're going to be talking about Mudsdale and Applejack, and we're going to give Mudsdale a B+. I am very excited about Mudsdale. I love Mudsdale. You see, we brought it 3 times, had 3 kills, had 3 deaths. It was a little bit more of a niche pick. I feel that normally my ground types end up coming more frequently. However, for whatever reason, Mudsdale just wasn't it wasn't brought nearly as much as it could have been brought, in my opinion. But when it did come, it did a fantastic job. Mudsdale is such a great wall. It can be run defensively, both offensive. I can't speak. Defensively, both physically and specially. It's got a great attack stat. It's got a great ability. You can run it with an Assault Vest. You can run it with Leftovers. You can run it with a Reducing Berry, like a Rindo Berry, anything like that, and it can do a great job in return. I'm always a huge Mudsdale fan. I think it's one of the best, mid-low tier ground types. And I think it did a really great job this season. I don't think that there was anything too noteworthy aside from the fact that it was a great Lycan Rock Day answer that helped us get our first win of the season, and it played a very pivotal part in that. And so I'm going to give it a B+. And next up, we have Inteleon. Now, Inteleon had an amazing season. 5 appearances, 13 kills, 4 deaths. I've got to give Inteleon an A. Like, Inteleon absolutely just blew away my expectations. I knew Inteleon was going to be a great backup, killer, I guess you could call it. It's very underrated with its speed and its special attack. It actually hits really hard, and it gets some pretty decent moves, some pretty good coverage there. Plus, on top of that, you can run Swords Dance and run a physical version, which I never really got to. I actually had it on the team a couple times, but ended up removing it just because it was doing so good at what it was already doing. And because of that, Inteleon absolutely gets an A this season. I think it was a very surprising value pick for a lot of people, and it really did a good job. And I mean, at 13 kills, it was easily, by far and away our top kill leader of the season. It was up there with our Mew and our Como. Oh, those were the other two that were, kind of, making out the top three. But overall, very, very happy with Inteleon this season. I know that it's a very good mon. People kind of look at, like, when you draft a water type on your team, a lot of times people go for that bulky water type. Offensive water does a really, really great job as well, especially if it gets ice coverage, which Inteleon does. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, absolutely deserve that A. Great job, Inteleon. Next up, we're moving on to Meganium. Poor little Littlefoot didn't make a single appearance. We're going zeros across the board. And so, let's be nice. Let's give it a C. It had to be there to be prepped for at base 80 speed. It hit a speed tier that we needed to hit. It's a very bulky mon. I actually considered it bringing it a couple times, and I had it on the team once, I think, that I was like, yeah, this is gonna make it, and then I ended up switching it out for Mudsdale, I believe, that time around, and it's fine. It didn't quite do what I wanted it to do, like it did for me back in season 2, where it really put on a lot of pressure. It got some good kills. But I also think that the team that we had this time around, especially with the Como-O and the Thundurus being weak to ice, bringing the Meganium and the Mudsdale, like, it just was that additional weakness that I really couldn't fit it onto any team. So we're going to go ahead and give Littlefoot here a C, even though it didn't come at all. It was there mostly for the prep. And then our last mon, Ariados Acromantula, made it to one game in the final game of the season, 0 kills, 1 death, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it a C+. It had its time to shine. It was gonna set up those sticky webs, and we were running the sucker punch, and we did everything that we needed to. And in that last game, it just didn't pan out, right? Like, we weren't able to keep the sticky webs up. We weren't able to sucker punch the Alakazam. We didn't live the Earth power from the Mega Venusaur, which still don't know how. Like, I did the calcs, and even if it was a max attack, like modest Mega Venusaur, it should have only done maximum 47%. We were at 50%, but I probably messed up my calcs. I know I did that a time or two, but either way, I was very confused about that. And had that not happened, Acromantula may have been able to, maybe squeak in a B- for the season in its one match. But overall, I think where it only came once, it was definitely in contention with being able to run Toxic Spikes and Sticky Webs. But in the end, it really just didn't come that much. As a 2-point mon, it did a good job of having to, sit on the bench and people needing to prep for it, thinking, I need to be aware of Toxic Spikes, I need to be aware of Sticky Webs. And then it really, it's not that strong of a mon, but when you're running things like, potentially Mega Horn and Poison Jab, those are good coverage, and that's what I got to say about Ariados. So we're going for the C+ there. Now we have a couple awards to give out, and by a couple I mean 4. We've got our value pick of the season, we have our defensive mon of the season, we have our offensive mon of the season, and we have our MVP of the season. And to kick things off, let's talk about our value mon of the season, which, surprise, is going to be Inteleon. Inteleon absolutely deserves this award. With an 8-point value and getting 13 kills, it way overperformed what people were expecting it to do. It actually did even better than I was hoping it would do, but in the best way possible. Absolutely, Inteleon 100% nailed on for this award. I would say if there was a runner-up, it'd probably be Mudsdale, but the fact of the matter is Inteleon was one of the best Pokemon on our team this season, and there's no way I couldn't give it this award. Our next award we're going to be talking about is the defensive Pokemon of the season, which is going to go to Sylveon. I already talked a lot about this when we went over Sylveon. However, I'm just going to reiterate that it is such a great defensive Pokemon. It is able to hit back hard. It can take hits physically. It can take hits specially. And that special bulk is just insane to have to deal with. It gets it over the Mega Aggron because Mega Aggron, I feel like, didn't really do a whole lot, but Sylveon has a lot of other advantages. Like, it was able to run leftovers, it was a great cleric, it could throw up wishes. There was a couple games where wish absolutely came in pivotal to us winning the game. So Sylveon gets the defensive Mon of the Season award. Very excited to give that to Iris. Our next award is going to be the offensive Mon of the season, and we are going to go back to Inteleon. I mean, how could it not be? It was our kill leader of the season. It was what prevented us from getting beat even harder than we maybe even could have. But Inteleon with the 13 kills, I'm just going to bring that up again and again. Such a great value pick, such a great offensive Mon. Base, base 120 speed, 125 attack or special attack is nothing to laugh at. And when it gets the coverage of like multiple different water type moves, like hitting with hydro pumps or scalds or snipe shots, and then you have your coverage with ice beams and shadow balls and dark pulse and air slash. Like you have quite a few Mons that are quite a good variety of moves you can go for. Plus you get things like U-turn and you can run it physically and all that. So Inteleon wins our offensive Mon of the season, and our last Mon that gets the MVP award. So this was kind of a tough one for me because it easily could have gone to Inteleon. It absolutely could have. I feel like Inteleon was extremely pivotal in helping us win some battles. But the Mon that I think that is the true MVP of the team is Como-O. And I'm going to talk about that and tell you why. And it's because even though it wasn't the kill leader of the season, it wasn't like the defensive Mon of the season, I feel like it hit everything that it needed to do. There was only 1 or 2 matches that it came to that it didn't really live up to what it could have done. I'm specifically thinking, I believe it was like our first or second match where we had already the game was kind of already done and we tried to bring it back and we couldn't have, and it's a whole big thing. But aside from that, I do feel that like Como-O really was a great Mon to bring week in and week out. I know it didn't make it as much as like a Sylveon or a Mew, but what it did when it came in, it got kills, it helped us win games, it was a defensive rock, and it really helped glue everything together, and it was what we built the team around. So I really feel that like everything we did built around Como-O. And could Como-O have performed better? I think so. However, in the context of our team, I do think that Como-O deserves the most valuable Pokemon award, and it gets the award right here. Well, that's it for season 4. We're gonna come back with season 5. There's some big changes coming to the tier list. There's some new Mons coming in, and I'm very excited to put together a team for season 5. We'll see how this all works out, but we're definitely going to be trying to draft a very, very scary team. I think the past couple seasons I've been very experimental with my drafting, trying to like pick out some different Mons that might work together, or like focusing around like a Como-O, right, this season, where we were trying to pick up some things that really synergized well and really focused on like that synergy aspect. But I think this next season I might just try to draft just some straight power and see what we can do with it. Thinking back to seasons 1 and 2, that's kind of how we were able to pull things out. But we'll see. We're definitely gonna see how the next season goes. Let's see how many times I can say "see" in the next 10 seconds. But thank you everyone for watching this season. Very much appreciate it. I know it wasn't our best. However, I do think that there were some really great battles along the way. We learned a lot. There were a lot of cool Mons that we got to use for the first time. We got to revisit some of our old favorites and got to see Inteleon get 13 kills. So I think that alone was worth the season. Next season, our goal is 100%. We're going to be making it to the playoffs, and if we can, we're going to try to regain that championship title. It's been a few seasons since we've had that. So that's the goal for next season. But anyway, thank you all for watching season 4. Really appreciate it. And we will talk to you with our next season team stuff. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later.